All right, today we're going to pick back up on our wing tutorial on how to get your wing set up. On the last video, we went through how to flash Betaflight for your wing, how to get it up, set up, how to get it set up. In this next one, we really need to start talking about the PIDs and the new term S-Term. You're going to be using a PIDFS controller with fixed wings, and that's something new. That S-Term is something you're not used to on a quadcopter. Now, a big fundamental difference between a quadcopter and a fixed wing is with a quadcopter, you are not flying the quadcopter. You're flying this thing. You're flying a flight controller. So when you have something like this, you don't need a PID controller at all. When you have something like this, you need a PID controller. You're relying on it 100%. So with that understanding, the first thing I want to draw to your attention is just how to fly with a flight controller, have it all set up if you went through that last video, but how you can fly your fixed wing without bothering with PIDs and stuff like that. Just how to fly it stick and rudder, as they would say. Your flight controller is merely just a pass-through. It receives your receiver inputs, pushes them right to the servos. If you move your servos over, if you move your sticks over, you're just moving those servos, just like we'll call that stick and rudder. And it's just no PIDs or any flight controller really in between. It's just passing it right through. Pass-through. That might be a good term. So let's see. To set that up, what you're going to do is go into your modes tab here, and you can see there's a pass-through mode. So passes through the yaw, pitch, and roll directly from the receivers to the servo for an airplane mix. There you go, right in a little help there. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that on, and we're going to set that on a switch so that when, in this case, aux 5 is going to be over here all the way to behind me over there, that it will be in pass-through mode. You're going to want to do that for your fixed wing, regardless, no matter what. Everybody always sets up a pass-through mode on some aux switch so that you can control the fixed wing without having PIDs or anything like that, especially when you're getting this thing started for the first time. But I would recommend it all the time that you have that. It's almost, to some extent, a safety mechanism that you can always know that, hey, if I flip this in my aux 5 or whatever the aux is to this pass-through mode, it's just stick and rudder. The flight controllers are really not involved in any way. Now, it's still going through the flight controller, so if your flight controller dies mid-flight, you're gonna have issues either way. But again, you're just not dealing with other implements. Now, the next thing that you're gonna wanna do is realize that you don't need PIDs whatsoever to control your flight controller. You can actually set your PIDs like I have right here. You can actually set them to 0. And the PIDs, we need to talk about this differential between what the PIDs are meant to do, because the PIDs are not really meant to fly the fixed wing craft. These PIDs over here are not really meant to fly it, as in all the flight performance comes through the PIDs. These are really just meant to stabilize it. You're really flying it most of the time kind of stick and rudder. And then you just have, when you have the PIDs turned on here, that will mean that you'll get some extra help, some extra stabilization. Some wind gusts hit it, it will automatically adjust for that. If it has a slight driftiness because of, it's mostly wind gusts. Honestly, it's mostly wind gusts and other turbulence. These PIDs will help stabilize that for you and help just in general to keep like the nose on track. So you're not, and you could do it yourself, stick and rudder, of course, but then there's a lot more implements you would need to do this. By using these PIDs and turning these on, it will reduce the amount of effort you need to do, and it will keep it smoother for you. So they're a really nice added feature. Again, when you are in that pass-through mode, doesn't matter if these settings are on at all. Obviously, when they're also at 0, if I'm in the pass-through mode or not in the pass-through mode, if I'm not in the pass-through mode and these are all 0, they're not doing anything anyways. So now you're coming off, you got your servos set up, you're all happy with yourself. You can move your sticks and make your servos move like I can do right here. And you think, hey, I'm ready to go. I got my bypass mode set. Let's go chuck this thing and work it out. Maybe you even think I'm not even going to use bypass mode to start. I want the stability when I throw it. That would be a big mistake. Don't do that. You need to get this set up PID wise. And the main fundamental issue is, again, talking about we're not using a PIDF or proportional integral derivative and feed forward controller anymore. We're tacking on an additional term, an S-term. That S-term is not active yet. It's in the CLI, unfortunately, yet in this version. I'm going to put in a PR to add a slider for the S-term if nobody else beats me to it. But at the end of the day, we need to turn that S-term on and start to use that. And we need to turn these PIDs down. So you can see right here, whoop, where are they right here? These PIDs right here, way too high. So let's look at this a little bit. So again, these PIDs are set to default for Betaflight for a 5-inch racing quadcopter. That is nowhere near what it should be for a fixed wing. Right now, these PIDs that you see here in these gains, the reason my servos are moving is because my proportional term is adjusting the PID sum, the PID output, to tell the servos to move. If I reduce this term, so say I bring the master multiplier slider down, and now my PIDs are like 8 here. Notice how my I'm still giving it full stick throw here, right? I'm still giving it full deflection. My servos hardly move. Conversely, if I crank this all the way up and hit save, now my servos are going to move even more, and they're going to be even faster. So same thing here. That's PIDs turned way up, PIDs turned way down, save again, and you can see they hardly move at all. Obviously, that's kind of weird, right? To a quadcopter pilot, that's kind of weird. That's not how quadcopters, it is kind of how they work. We just don't ever use our PIDs that low. But it's kind of strange, right? So that's what the S-term is. The servo throw term is a term that we're going to use and we're going to implement, and is going to control how far our servos throw based on our stick inputs, regardless of the PIDs. So let's check that out. Now, as mentioned, right now in this version of Betaflight, in this version of the configurator, moreover, you have to go into the CLI, unfortunately. So type in get S. What I like to do is S underscore. You still get a bunch of stuff here, unfortunately, but at the midway-ish, it's not really even at the top, you'll see these S underscore terms right here. So S pitch, S roll, S yaw. The recommendation, and what these are, is these are 0 to 100. 0 means 0 servo throw is going to be implemented by this S term. 100 is 100% servo throw is going to be implemented by this term. So you would think to put them at 100 if you want full servo movement. Like, we want this thing to be a sky ripper. I want full roll rate, not Days of Thunder, Top Gun. Days of Thunder was the driving version of Top Gun. But anyways, I want Top Gun kind of flight performance out of this sucker if I'm using Betaflight, right? So we put 100. It's not that simple. So what you want to do, recommendation, is you want to set these to 50 off the start. Again, hopefully this will be easier in the future, but what you do is you copy those, typically type in set, paste that, and then you're going to want to start with 50. That's just a typical starting value. That's what you're going to see in the documentation as well. And it's just kind of a safe value. So you're only going to get half of your servo throw. So we're going to do that on, I guess, I'm going to mostly focus on roll for this, this video, but I guess I'll set pitch here as well. And we'll go ahead and hit save on that and hit, type those two in, hit set, type those two into 50, and then hit save. And then that will go ahead and save that in. Now, another piece to that, and I didn't show it, but maybe I should have, before I set those S terms, if I would have left those at 0, and then I would have zeroed the PIDs out here. So 0 PIDs. When I move my sticks, it wouldn't have moved the servos at all. I had no S term. I had no PIDs, no PI and D. And if I'm not in pass-through, now obviously if I was in pass-through, then it would move them. So let me just show that. So I went back and I turned my roll S term to 0. Now you can see over here, I do have some PIDs I put in there, moved up the master slider a little bit, and my servos move just a little bit. But if I go ahead and zero this, so I put master slider to 0, hit save. Now when I move my stick, I don't get any movement. I have an S term of 0, I have a P term of 0, I, D, and feed forward. All 5 terms are 0. I am not in pass-through mode. If I go to here, now I'm in pass-through mode, I get full stick deflection. But if I go into rate mode, or even if I would be in self-leveling mode, I'm gonna get nothing, because no PIDs, no PID values, you got nothing. Again, you can see where that pass-through mode is kind of a safety mode. Now I have my full, 100% stick throw is 100% travel. Okay, now I'm back. I set my S term on the roll back to 50%. Notice I still have 0 on my PIDs here, and I'm in rate mode. This button's all the way up. Now when I move my sticks, I'm getting stick throw. These PIDs are 0, but I'm still getting stick throw because that S term is 50%. So when I move my stick full deflection, my servos are going half, not because I set it at 50, not 100. If I would set my S term at 100, when I would go full deflection, I would get full servo throw as well. So you can see the difference here just by if I give it full servo throw and then flip into manual mode here, you can see how they go a little bit farther. It looks like they only are going just a little bit further. So I'm getting a little bit more than 50% with my S being set at 50. And that's something I've noticed. If you look in the documentation, it's going to say that, hey, 0 on S term is 0 throw, 100 is 100%, so 50 is 50 throw. But you end up getting a little bit more out of the servo. So 50 is like 60 or 70, it seems, ish. And maybe there's a nuance to that. I do have my stick set from 1,000 to 2,000 for the position and 1,500 in the middle. But so you will notice that, and you can see the difference there again by going into manual mode versus rate mode here with that. So what are some of the differences there? So what is the difference now when my PIDs are 0, they're still 0 behind me here, between manual mode or pass-through mode and Acro mode? Well, in pass-through mode, your stick is linear. So it's linear from 0 to 100% servo throw from 0 stick out. Whereas and this is probably the differential, in rate mode with the S term, it is using your rate curve. So I have my rates set a little bit more squishy in the center here. So let me switch to this view. You can see here I'm using actual rates, and I have my center sensitivity set down, and I also have my roll rate, which is a separate thing here, but I have my roll rate set down to 300. It's using these rates for your servo, so you can get a little bit more smoother, servo control in center stick. Whereas when I'm using pass-through mode, it's not using these rates whatsoever. It's using, again, just straight up linear rate from 0 to 100%. Now, the other thing, my PIDs are still 0 here. And obviously if I'm in manual mode or pass-through mode, I'm not getting any flight controller stabilization, right? I think we're clear on that, hopefully. But with these PIDs set to 0, I'm still, if I grab my flight controller here and wiggle it around, you can see here, I'm not getting any servo movement whatsoever, right? So my S term is working, like I'm not in pass-through mode. My S term is working, so I'm using my rates. The PID controller is active, but the S term is only active because the rest of the PIDs are set to 0. So that means I get no stability stuff here, right? If I want to get stability, I need to turn on my PIDs. So I can do that by moving them up anything greater than 0. Now I have PIDs. So now you can see here, if I grab this flight controller and start moving it around here, let's try to show it the same view here. You can see that roll, that aileron moving up and down as I'm moving the flight controller around there. See that? Now, what if I want more stability, more throw, more input? Well, then I can raise my PIDs even higher. And now look, when I move that flight controller the same amount, now they're really going all over the place. So just like a quadcopter, you can overtune a fixed wing by your PIDs being too high. And just like a quadcopter, if you overtune your fixed wing with your PIDs being too high, it will fly out of control and you'll lose it. It will start to oscillate and you won't be able to get it back under control unless you have that pass-through mode set. You can always flip it into pass-through. Then it disables the PID controller and you're just flying stick and rudder. You can see why that pass-through mode is really handy, because if you overtune your flight controller or overtune your PIDs and you start to go into a dive, for example, and the acceleration of the wind over the control surfaces goes up, or the velocity of the wind over the control surfaces goes up, where PIDs at, you know, simple forward flight, when you're just cruising the wing along the ground, or you know, just kind of cruising straight forward, it's fine. Your PIDs are fine. Everything's good. You're getting good stability. But then when you go into a dive and you're going really, really, really fast, and that velocity over the control surface of the wind, and the control surfaces have a lot more influence and power, well, then maybe these PIDs that you have here are too high and it starts to flutter out of control. And you, again, will be really happy you have pass-through mode here to flip into to save yourself, to pull out of that dive in stick and rudder. Then you can go back into your PIDs and say, oh, geez, I gotta bring these down some. It's also really important to recognize that by default, these PIDs, like the default PIDs here of the 45, you know, whatever you get out of Betaflight, way, way too high for a fixed wing, unless it's a huge lumbering fixed wing. It's way too high for a small, agile fixed wing. So you're going to want to bring these PIDs down to start. I would recommend somewhere, and you can look in the advice down below, which I will make a link to. You're going to want to start down somewhere below 10 for the proportional gain. What I would do is just grab the master and slide it all the way down. I wouldn't turn it off. I mean, you can, but then you just don't have a PID controller. But somewhere below 10 to start. That will give you some, you know, some stability with your flight controller here. You can see as I got to hit save, I guess, huh? You can see as I move that around and have it in non-pass-through mode, I'm getting some stability control here, but it's not crazy. And then you could use the fancy new adjustment where you can move the master slider up and down on a pot. I'll make a link down to that video down below, and you can slide your master slider up and down in your fixed wing while you're flying to see what level of PIDs you need. So yeah, really that in-flight adjustment to be able to slide this master. So check that video out. Okay, that is going to do it for this video. The real topic I wanted to get clear here is just the new S-Term and how that relates and all the eccentricities with pass-through mode, the importance of pass-through mode, and how the S-Term works with the rest of the PIDs, and how the PIDs could really be zero once you have S-Term set. We're going to want to tune S-Term, and we're going to want to tune our rates, because that's a thing in with fixed wings. I can do a full roll rate. Really with a quadcopter, to some extent, sky's the limit. I mean, unless you set your rates to like 2,000 or some crazy high number, your quadcopter is going to be able to get to that roll rate. Fixed wings, not so much, especially on a pitch. Roll, a lot of fixed wings can do a pretty tight roll. Depends how big the craft is. But they typically are only going to get up to like, I don't know, a couple hundred. Maybe a really super agile fixed wing, like a Penguin, get up to like 800 degrees per second. 1,000, it would be super duper fast for 1,000 degrees per second. So you need to be cautious about what you're going to set these rates to, because there's I-term accumulation and all kinds of other stuff. But with this, the fundamental on this video again was that S-term, PIDs, pass-through mode and everything. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to calibrate your rates here, how to calibrate your S-term, And then after that, once we know we have our rates set appropriately and our S-term set in a decent spot, then we can start looking at PIDs, PID attenuation, and stuff like that, because there's some more really good stuff with Betaflight that I think that's one of its shining features with Betaflight on wings, is there's a lot of good PID attenuation thanks to Lamone and his good work on all this stuff that he added to or improved in fixed wings and Betaflight. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe down below. Thanks, everybody. Don't hesitate to put any questions down below that you have. Don't hesitate to click those links for some of the help guides down below. And yeah, if you're interested in taking the next steps on this and looking at that master slider, that video will be linked down below as well. See you guys in the next one.